Hey, what up, awesome? All right, so carrying on with Eric Dubay and the high priests of the flat earth who are antichrist, who hate God, love money, love the flesh, whatever. They're slaves to their masters, whatever. Maybe their fathers are in the CIA. But in the Book of Mormon, there's a chapter that answers the atheist question, that exposes the atheists for who they are. It's in Alma 30, chapter 30. But it's really good. It's got some really good stuff in here. And I came across this phrase, the religious leader, the high priest of the city. You see, this atheist came among the people who were rejoicing, and they were feeling the Spirit, and they were having joy, and they were having good family life, and the husbands were really happy with their wives, and the wives were happy with their husbands. And this guy comes along, and he's like, "There's no Christ," and the people are like, "Oh, okay, like what like what the flip, And the people were rejoicing, and I was thinking about how the flat earth really caused a lot of us to rejoice and to be happy, because there might have been a lot of us who were believers in God, and maybe there were some of us who already believed in the resurrection and stuff like that. But we really did believe in NASA. Like, we really believed, like, that we went to the moon, and that, we're flying to Jupiter, and that there's black holes and all this garbage crap. We believed the lies. So when we found out about the flat earth, we rejoiced, because we're like, yeah, like, proof. It's proof. The water is flat, and we live under a glass dome, and NASA's been lying, And it's not that any of us ever thought like NASA is like Satan, It's just, with evolution that might be true, but with NASA it was just like, okay, that's kind of weird, like, because I used to think before, I didn't believe in the flat earth, but I used to think as a kid, like, so we're spinning really fast, and we're going through space really fast, and the earth is tilted, all these weird things. And then I used to think about the distance to the sun, and I'm like, even if the sun was twice as hot as they say it is, I thought about distance. And I know they say it's like electromagnetic, and it's not just heat. I used to think, like, does it really matter how hot something is? Even massive. Does it really matter how hot something is? Because it seems like there comes a point where distance negates any heat. 93 million miles. It's like, well, who cares how hot the sun is? I mean, once you get to 100,000 miles, it should be lessening, and then 500, and then 1,000,000, and then after 1,000,000 or 5,000,000, you'd think, well, the heat's dissipated, because that's what happens on the earth. No matter how hot something is, the heat doesn't go very far. I mean, you can think of a furnace. You can think of anything that's hot. Anyway, so they're rejoicing. And this priest says, "Why do you teach this people that there shall be no Christ to interrupt their rejoicings?" So everyone's rejoicing in the flat earth movement because of Christ, because we know Jesus is the Lord, and this proves that this is his creation. And then someone like Eric Dubay comes, or ODD, or whoever, and they're like, "Oh, let's just focus on the flat earth. Flat earth, flat earth, flat earth. It's flat, it's flat, it's flat. Oh, isn't NASA crazy? Look how crazy NASA is. NASA's so bad. Oh, but, the earth is flat." It's like, well, what about Christ? What about Jesus? Let's rejoice that we know Jesus. And he says, "Why do you speak against all the prophecies of the holy prophets? So in this whole verse, it says, why do you go about perverting the ways of the Lord? And then, why do you teach this people that there shall be no Christ to interrupt their rejoicings? Why do you teach the people that there is no Christ in the flat earth movement? Why do you interrupt their rejoicings? And he doesn't even acknowledge that. He doesn't even acknowledge that now that people know the flat earth, that they're happy. So it talks about, and the high priest's name was Giddonah, and Korihor said unto him, because I do not teach the foolish traditions of your fathers. Well, the atheist tradition is a foolish tradition. NASA's philosophy, NASA's godless traditions are foolish. Anti-God is a tradition that's been going on since Cain. Because I do not teach this people to bind themselves down under the foolish ordinances and performances which are laid down by ancient priests, to usurp power and authority over them, to keep them in ignorance, that they may not lift up their heads, but be brought down according to thy words. So he's saying Christianity is meant to have power over people, bad power. But what have we learned now with NASA? NASA, they are the high priest of scientism, meant to bring down the people to... Nothing is more racist. And this is something we got to think about. There have been racists in one term of cosmic racists. People who say you are not a race from God. You are not a spiritual child of God. Jesus is not God. He's not your brother. There is no connection between you and God. That's racist. Because it's racist against the human race. It cuts them off from God. It's the ultimate racism. Now, earthly racism derives from that. Because racism is when we cut ourselves off from a person according to color. Well, we're all brothers. We're all brothers and sisters. So he's saying these ordinances and these performances, you say that this people is a free people. Behold, I say they are in bondage. You say that those ancient prophecies are true. Behold, I say that you do not know that they are true. Anyway, the blah, 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 blah. I say that you do not know that there shall be a Christ. And you say also he shall be slain for the sins of the world. You lead away this people after foolish traditions of your fathers. And I think that's what Eric Dubay would say. It's just a foolish tradition. And according to your own desires. And it's kind of ironic because there's women and men who have read the scriptures, who have prayed, and who feel like they are spirits and that they connect spiritually with Jesus, and that there's billions or millions of people who can testify that they've felt the presence of Christ, the spiritual presence. So in one sense, Eric Dubay is kind of anti-spirit. He's not a spiritual person. In fact, he might be anti-spirit by saying there is no Christ, because if there is a Christ, he communicates to people through his spirit. It's kind of interesting. Now the high priest, he saw the hardness of his heart. So Eric Dubay and others might have a hard heart. He says, when they saw that you would revile even against God. And maybe Eric Dubay is reviling against God. Maybe he is reviling and, speaking angrily towards God. They would not make any reply to his words, but they caused that he should be bound. And they delivered him up into the hands of the officers and sent him to the land of Zarahemla, that he might be brought before Alma. And the chief judge, who was governor over all the land, came to pass. Blah, 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 blah. So he keeps going and going. Now the priest answers him, and this is what we would answer to Globe Busters and ODD and Antonio Subaru. And now, what evidence have you that there is no God, or that Christ cometh not? I say unto you that you have none, save it be your word only. What evidence do you have that there is no God? Eric Dubé knows the earth is flat. He has more evidence than most people in the world, and he's still that evil. He's still that devilish. The son of Satan, that he would still say, oh, there's no Christ. Wow, you know what? You're really evil. And you're really evil because you're trying to influence others to not believe in Christ. So some innocent people, you might be murdering their souls. And then this high priest says, for behold, I say unto you, I know there is a God. And this is a good high priest. He says, I know there is a God. And he says, I know there is a God, and also that Christ shall come. And now what evidence have you that there is no God? I have all things as a testimony. Everything testifies of Christ. And ye also have all things as a testimony unto you that they are true. You have a testimony. Will you deny them? Believest thou that these things are true? Behold, I know that thou believest, but thou art possessed with a lying spirit. So he's saying, I know you believe. I know that thou believest, but thou art possessed with a lying spirit. And ye have put off the Spirit of God, that it may have no place in you. But the devil has power over you, and he doth carry you about, working devices that he may destroy the children of God. Using Eric Dubé to destroy the children of God. We are children of God, and Eric Dubé is saying you're not a child of God. Everyone in NASA, of course we live in the age of Satan and atheism. We live in the age of destroying everybody. And women are being destroyed spiritually and physically, and men too. That's the work of the devil, working devices to destroy. You destroy people when you destroy their belief. You have put off the Spirit of God, that has no place in you. The devil has power over you, and he doth carry you about. The devil carries people about. People in NASA, people in the mainstream media, ODD, all these shills in the flat earth, they will just do what they're told. They'll put the flat earth videos out there that are missing a lot of the spirituality, missing a lot of good points and good theology. They'll put the flat earth videos out there that suck because they don't testify of Christ. These people should not be in the flat earth. There should be flat earth groups where it's like, we don't talk about Eric Dubé. We don't use his videos. Will you tempt God? Anyway, so going back earlier in the chapter, this is Alma chapter 30. In this Antichrist, oh yeah, Mark Sargent too. Mark Sargent is an Antichrist. Mark Sargent believes if people knew that if they found out about the flat earth and then they found out about God and that there's one God and Christ rules, he said that would be bad, that wouldn't be good. I don't know if he still says that, but he says that wouldn't be good for everyone to know that there's one creator. I talked to him on the phone. And the law could have no hold of it. He began to preach that there should be no Christ. And after this manner did he preach. He says, you are bound down under a foolish and vain hope. Why do you yoke yourselves with such foolish things? Well, okay, why do you yoke yourself with such a foolish thing as believing in Christ? But we've been yoked to believing that the earth is round, that vaccines are good, that 9/11 was done by 14 men from the Middle East. We've believed foolish things for so long. Now we get to believe the truth about God, the truth about Jesus. And they're going to tell us it's foolish? Why do you look for a Christ? For no man can know of anything which is to come. And that's the type of people these people are. Why do you look for Christ? Well, they just fight against Christ. And that's what they've been doing for a long